Hi. We should talk about this. Have you noticed what's been going on with Instagram lately? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm guilty of it too. I think a lot of us are, actually. I mean, what? Just wait a second. It gets even better. Okay, wait. Just one more. Listen to this bass fill. What?
He's too dangerous to be left alive.
No.
I need him!
Please, don't!
I want to get to the bottom of this. I want to show you exactly how this is done, and then I want to tell you why you might not want to do it. Levi from the future here. I didn't quite realize just how technically dense this video is going to get from a how-to standpoint. So if you're just interested in the tea or the cultural psychology behind this Instagram guitarist phenomenon, skip to part 5. Okay, cool. Roll intro. I get a lot of questions for these fretless bass jams I do on Instagram. A lot of you guys want to know how I get my tone, what kind of effects I'm using, and the secret to my slightly unusual slap technique. I'm happy to answer all those questions in this video and show you exactly how I do what I do, but I'd also like to take the opportunity to discuss the larger implication of these kinds of videos, the community's vitriol towards the so-called Instagram guitarist phenomenon, and their viability as a marketing tool for the modern musician. But before we begin, because we're going to be discussing marketing, I feel I owe you a disclaimer.
Proceed with caution, Autobots.
Anyone who promises to show you how to go viral is bullshitting you. I've had content that has gone viral when I absolutely was not expecting it to. And conversely, I've had content that I thought would blow up, just blow back in my face with less than 100 people watching. Take all marketing gurus, messengers of producer talk, and any similar how-to music marketing viral videos with a grain of salt. Do not spend any of your hard-earned money on anything stupid. Instead, try a bunch of different things, and eventually you'll find what authentically works for your unique brand of music.
You've got to be true to yourself.
That being said, these Instagram Reels have brought me a modicum of both personal and professional fulfillment. I enjoy doing them, and they seem to be working for me, so here's how I do it. Part 1, done is better than perfect. Okay, so I try and do one Instagram jam a week. I don't really have that much time to spend on any given one, so I focused on streamlining the process as much as possible so I can go from concept to finished product in one afternoon. I usually give myself a deadline of 1 hour to learn, compose, and record the music for any given short form video. I should mention that these reels for me are more of a fun, lighthearted exploration of the bass as a tool for sound design rather than as a serious artistic pursuit. That's what the other 23 hours in the day are for. I'm very much a perfectionist when it comes to my music or the content on this channel, so it's nice to have something casual that I can do every week where I'm kind of letting go of some of that and living in the beauty of the moment. Margaret Atwood once said, "If I waited for perfection, I would never write a word." For as long as I've been posting on the internet, I've tried to let those words transform me from the unproductive product perfectionist I know I am in my heart into the ruthless completionist I pretend to be today. Sometimes quantity is better than quality, especially in the world of the highest of expectations, or in the insatiable world of Instagram relevance. I've been thinking a lot lately about this Instagram guitarist, bassist phenomenon where you have these highly technical players playing these very obtrusive but really skillful lines over pop songs. And it's kind of got me thinking of a skit that I want to try in this week's video. The idea is what bassists want to play versus what they should play. First things first, we need a track to play over. This one will do.
Hi, I'm from outer space. I got Milky Way for blood, evolution in my veins.
I keep seeing this video pop up on TikTok and it's fantastic. The song is called Jericho by Eniko, and it's not hard to see why it's picking up traction.
I had a vision from the phrase they want to co-sign. Artificially intelligent AI.
The song has a really interesting vocal cadence to it, and there's a quality in this performance that's just really compelling. So let me show you how I learn and arrange these kinds of things quickly with charts and stuff. Part 2, charts and stuff. All right, so I've got both the acapella and the studio version pulled up here. Now, I haven't actually listened to the studio version of this track just yet, so you're gonna have to bear with me. We're gonna be hearing and learning this thing together for the first time. So fingers crossed that it's not too challenging, but who knows? Let's give it a listen and find out. Cool, I like that storming sound effect. That's pretty cool.
Hi, I'm from outer space.
I'm high, so that's an F. Is it an F? Ah, it's an F. I'm high. Sweet. So that means we're either going to be in the key of F major or in D minor. And judging from the first chord, it sounded more minor to me. So we're probably in the key of D minor, but let's just double check. Key of D minor.
Space. I got Milky Way for blood, evolution in my veins.
To C major.
I'm gone, I've been far away. I'm illuminated.
D6 chord, that would be B flat minor. Okay, so at least in the beginning, it sounds like it's pivoting from D minor to C major to D minor to C major down to this B flat minor. So in the context of the key of D minor, I guess that would be 1 to 7 to 1 to 7 to the 6 chord, which is all fairly standard stuff, but it's a heck of a lot of fun to play over. So I'm going to go back and see if we can lock down the melody.
Hi, I'm from outer space. I got Milky Way for blood, evolution in my veins. I'm gone, I've been far away. I'm illuminated. I'll make a move, start a waves. I've been dreaming about flying for a long time. I had a vision from the phrase they want to co-sign. Artificially intelligent way.
Got a little carried away there, but I think I've got the basics of it down. I like the kind of pivot thing it does. So if I were to, I guess, play that, it would be something like... something like that, and then it goes down to the B flat minor. I think I'm going to try and chart out this song. So let me go grab a pen and I will show you my process about how I do that. So real quick, for the uninitiated, charts are a sort of notation shorthand. A lot of studio guys use them, and they're really helpful for writing down a lot of information quickly. You have bar lines, and then you have slashes, which represent time. This song is in 4/4, so I've got 4 slashes, which show each beat in the bar. So you count that 1, 2, 3, 4. You can then map chord structures by writing in the chords where they go within the bars. So this song, for instance, starts on D minor. So we do D minor, 2, 3, 4, and then you got a full bar of D minor. Now, with charts, you can also write D minor like that with the subtract sign. It means the exact same thing, it's just easier to write. And then the other symbol you might want to know is the repeat symbol. So it'll look like that, and it just means repeat the last bar. So if we wanted to do an example real quick, we could do D minor for 1 bar, let's do C major for 1 bar, and then let's just repeat that. So if I were to play what that sounds like, it goes something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pretty simple. So let's chart out Jericho. Writing in the bar lines, not exactly sure how many I should have. It's probably going to be either 8 or 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll work with it. It's fine. This is not going to look very pretty. It's not really supposed to. This is just a quick and easy guide so I can play through the changes on bass just really smoothly and not have to suffer through a session. I remember it starts on D minor and then it goes to C, but I kind of forgot what happens after that. So what I'm gonna do is take a listen to it and just write down what I hear in real time. All right, so now that we've got that done, it's looking decent. Let's try it out on the bass. Part 3, the in-depth particulars of recording bass for Instagram. Since this song is in D minor and I like to play a lot of open harmonics, I'm going to retune to accommodate that. So I've got D, A, D, F for an open D minor chord. With this song, I really like the rhythmic cadence of the vocals, so I think I'm gonna try and accentuate that on the bass. Something like that. I'll use the first half of the song to demonstrate some more technical chops, and then when the skit changes to what the bassist should play, then I think I'll drop back, maybe just play root notes or whatever the actual bass line is. All right, let's go and record a few takes.
I'm from outer space. I got Milky Way for blood, evolution in my veins.
I figured while I'm struggling through some takes and trying to figure out some cool riffs, it would be a good time to show you my recording setup. For the most part, it's bare bones simple. I'm running everything direct through this old, I think first generation Scarlett Solo interface. I've got a line in for the bass and a line in for this SM57, which admittedly is a little strange, especially considering my weird bass here is a solid body, but hear me out. I don't have a tone knob, or any knobs on this thing for that matter. So I find having that extra dimension of sound capture to be useful. It gives my bass a unique sound. I can blend my direct signal with the SM57, which picks up string noise more than anything, and it helps with some of the muddiness in my tone. I don't always do this, but I do it a lot whenever I'm playing solo bass stuff where the instrument has to cover the full range of the frequency spectrum left by the absence of a full band. I'm also aware that the way most people will be consuming this content is through their phone speakers. So recording like this gives me more options and ability to cut through the final mix. Mixing to the phone is a thing and should absolutely be a consideration of yours in the studio. You don't need expensive gear to get an expensive sound. Even if you wanted to try out my setup and let's say you didn't have a mic, I bet you have a phone and that would work just as well. All told, cables and all, my entire setup is probably just shy of $200. Plus the bass, obviously. I'm recording both tracks simultaneously through Logic, where I've booted up a pre-made template session containing all of my bass sounds and different effect-loaded tracks that I might want to use. This saves me a lot of time, and I highly recommend setting up templates in your DAW if you find yourself recording the same instrument a lot. More on the specifics of these effects later, but first, I want to show you some bass ideas I've been workshopping. If you listen very carefully to Nico's acapella track, you can just barely make out the drums bleeding through their headphones into their vocal mic. In particular, you can just hear the crack of the snare drum here.
I got Milky Way for blood, evolution in my veins.
I think I want to cover that up a little bit by accentuating that snare hit with some percussive bass hits. I'm reminded of the Japanese guitarist and Kong Skull Island actor Miyavi, who has this very flamboyant slap guitar style. When playing acoustically, he often incorporates actual snaps into his guitar work. I've never tried that before, but I figured now is as good a time as any. I'm always trying to explore and come up with new sounds on the bass. One I've been particularly fond of lately that I actually haven't seen a lot of people use is the muted slap technique. Traditionally, when it comes to bass, we usually stick to slapping somewhere within this area with either that kind of a stroke or that kind of a stroke. Both of which are fine, but I found when developing techniques that work well for the ergonomics of a fretless short scale, I've kind of fallen in love with this approach. I'm slapping on the neck about where the 15th fret would be. This positions my elbow right above the strings and I can kind of almost palm mute it. So I get these really cool palm, I guess elbow muted slaps that have this nice wooden quality to them. One drawback of this position is it's not exactly easy to get the pop sound because you can't really get your finger underneath the string up on the neck here, but instead you can just do this double slap technique where you break up the hands and do this pivoting motion, and then you can do really cool things with that. I actually use that quite a bit. You're also kind of now in the perfect position to do harmonic slaps. Or if you're into it, tapping. Quick update on this snapping idea. I realized that anytime you snap, your thumb does a sort of natural upstroke. So if you place that just right, you can hit both the bass and the snap in the same stroke. Pretty cool. So you can do something kind of like... And it's just another percussive tool in your toolbox. I think I got a take that I'm happy with, so let's move on and do the effects. Part 4, effects. This is where the magic happens. I don't currently own an amp and I don't use effects pedals. Everything is done virtually, mostly through either stock or free plugins, with a couple exceptions. The timbral range of the bass is pretty limited compared to that of other instruments in a solo context. It's probably why there's a long-standing joke about how people always talk over bass solos. To make up for that and to make things interesting, I use a lot of effects. And I use them in a somewhat non-traditional way by either automating effects in and out as the track goes on, or by breaking up parts of my recording and literally dragging them into different tracks that have different effects loaded onto them. This is my completely unprocessed bass take.
I'm from outer space, I got Milky Way for blood, evolution in my veins. I'm gold, I've been far away, I'm illuminated, I'll make a move, start a waves, I've been...
And this is what that same bass take sounds like post-processing.
I'm from outer space, I got Milky Way for blood, evolution in my veins. I'm gold, I've been far away, I'm illuminated, I'll make a move, start a waves, I've been...
I've got my solo bass template open, and this DI mainline bass track is usually where I start. An EQ to take out some muddy low end, Logic's native compressor to squash some dynamic range and give me a more consistent sound, and this saturation knob from Softtube to give my sound a bit of extra bite. Anytime I do voiceless taps or slaps, I tend to move those parts to the Jeffries tube track. Extra points if you get the reference, by the way, which has an extra compressor and some tube emulating effects like this EQ and the little radiator plugin from Soundtoys. I also mix in a little bit of RC20 magic for the extra vinyl grain that I think pairs well with the percussive attitude of this effects chain. Warp 2 is generally for harmonics or sometimes lead lines. It uses the RC20 again, but more so for its retro verb sound. The star of the show here is Valhalla DSP's absolutely free space modulator. I guess this thing is marketed as a flanger, but I use it for everything from its customizable chorus to its reverb effects. I also highly recommend Valhalla DSP's reverb plugin, Supermassive. It pairs very well with space modulator, and it's also completely free. That brings us to our Warp 8 track, where we use the Supermassive to take the reverb to the extreme when we need it. The phaser track is, you guessed it, a phaser. I also have a ring shifter on standby too, if it ever comes up, both of which come stock with Logic. This last track here is a sampler instrument I call Bass Buddy. It's very simple, it's just a single bass drum that I'll sometimes use to bolster some of the thumpier bass stuff. Here's another benefit to recording from two sources. These are the snaps I did that were picked up from the SM57. I can isolate them, pull them off to another track, and process them completely separately from everything else, and get a more dynamic sound. Things like this give me more autonomy as a sound designer and let me create the most interesting track possible from a single performance. Fellow Instagram guitarist Charlie Robbins made a video last month with Neural DSP where he showed how he gets his dive bomb effect, and he goes about processing in a very similar way.
Sometimes I'll make two tracks, one for down and then one for up.
And then you're going to splice up the areas that you're going to throw into the pedal. I like to use open notes and chords.
and then I'll just drag it onto different tracks to see how it sounds with the pedal. And this is how it sounds.
That about wraps it up with effects. Now it's time to put it all together and see if I actually pulled off this skit.
I'm from outer space. I got Milky Way for blood, evolution in my veins. I'm gone, I've been far away. I'm illuminated now, make a move, start the waves. I've been dreaming of my flying for a long time. I had a vision from the place they want to coastline. Unofficially, infinity to AI. I'm the future best surprise when I'm a fine line. Yeah, I'm a missing link of this illusion. I am not really here, I'm an intrusion. I don't swim or sink, I just float. I don't need gravity, I just need growth. When I move, it's in a quick rumble. I won't ever fall, never stumble. And I don't need to be humble. Break down walls like Jericho crumble.
Part 5, an in-depth look into the cultural psychology behind the Instagram guitarist phenomenon.
You know, it used to be the sort of thing where you would just write a riff and you would be like, that was a great riff. I'm really excited about that. I can't wait to jam with it in my band. I can't wait to perform it. And now it's more like, what are the optics going to be of this riff? Are people going to like it? Are they going to comment on it? Are they going to share it? And, you know, a lot of the ideas we get are not shreddy.
This is John Ferrara, the legendary bassist behind the prog band Consider the Source. He also spearheads his own project, Mono Means One, where he plays solo bass in his unique tapping style, where he approaches the instrument more as a piano than as a bass.
Pretty much I'm a huge nerd. I do a lot of different bass-related things.
Great. We definitely
roles.
We definitely love the bass nerddom here on the channel. As you can probably imagine, his technical stylings play well on places like Instagram. In fact, Instagram is exactly why we're talking today. More specifically because of one of John's recent posts, where he addresses a commenter who's upset that he plays too technically.
The post I made was the reason I chose to share it. You know, I didn't put the person's name, and I'm honestly wasn't even mad at the guy. You know, he wasn't like a troll, really. He was just like a guy, like, really upset at just the state of music. And how come people don't sound like David Gilmour anymore? And people don't sound like this. And I'm like, well, you know.
His response really resonated with me, and I think it'll ring true to a lot of musicians out there trying to market themselves on social media. His post reads in part, "I do my very best to strike a balance between bearing my soul, but also putting forth whatever I have that could be defined as technical prowess. Because as you can imagine, when I post something calm, pretty, and heartfelt, which I do post in my reels and stories, the attention span of your average viewer these days is simply not interested. When I'm playing my faster or more elaborate ideas that are either more exciting or contemplative, and my heart truly is in it when I am, it gets more attention. So that side of me wins out as far as it's registered in the public eye. It's just the one side of me that's noticed."
You know, we're in this paradigm where unless we produce, we're going to be overlooked. And the algorithm can be really brutal. It could be the sort of thing where, like, you know, maybe you're not feeling very creative. Maybe you're having a drought, but if you don't feed the beast, you know,
Right.
then your numbers are going to go down. And not only do your numbers go down, but for a lot of people, like, their self-worth is also attached to it. And that gets really dangerous. That's worse than any of it.
There's a lot of aspects to deal with here, and it occurs to me that I haven't yet defined what an Instagram guitarist actually is. So here goes. I would say that these are people who specialize in making short-form, highly technical guitar or bass content for Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. And Facebook, too. I guess. I always forget that's a thing. There seems to be a lot of hate out there for these people. And it's not just John's commenter either. Just look through the comment section of any Marcin video and you'll know what I mean. A very vocal portion of the internet seems to loathe the technical stylings of guys like Ichikanito or Charles Bertu. Obviously, a guy like Marcin gets more praise than he does hate, but still, it feels like he gets more shade thrown at him than he deserves. So what's going on here? Is it jealousy? Well, I don't think it's that simple. By the way, I don't think I'm anywhere near the level of any of the guys I'm talking about here today, but I do make content that would probably be considered in the Instagram guitarist genre, if that's a thing. And I do it because, well, I enjoy it. It's fun and it pays the bills. Sorta. I get paid literal pennies from TikTok and Instagram, but it does help me grow my audience, build out my Patreon, which, by the way, you should definitely subscribe to. Link in the description. And I have gotten quite a few studio gigs directly from my reels. And that might be part of the problem. These videos, for a lack of a better word, work. At least for me. If you do it right, you can build a decent audience fairly quickly. I and many others have found that we can actually make a living doing this sort of thing. And let me tell you, making a living purely off your music is quite a rare thing in today's industry. Let's talk a little about the unintended consequences of short form music. Everything about these Instagram Reels or TikToks or YouTube Shorts are designed for the medium in which they appear and are consumed on. We optimize retention rates by throwing in these incredibly impressive looking techniques into a tight 30-second window because we know that higher retention rates mean more views. Skits with built-in setups and delayed payoffs are perfect for exactly this. And yes, the skit that we built in this video follows that format to a T. They tend to do well with the algorithm because of what the algorithm has been told to value. But that begs the question, how well aligned is the algorithm with our interests? This is a whole nother video, and I'm sure a mountain of research to tackle before I can adequately answer that. But if I had to wager a guess, I'd say the outlook is not good. One thing that I wanted to kind of get your opinion on is where you said that the attention span of the average viewer is just simply not interested. Do you think it's a matter of people not necessarily being interested, or is it more of like the algorithmic preferences, which I guess the algorithm is based in? So it like the algorithm will push content that's more exciting, more technical, more tappy, rather than something that maybe has, I guess what your complainer said was heart and soul.
Yeah. Well, I think, it's probably a little bit of both, because the algorithm is set to keep us, engaged in the things that they think that we're going to like. And so there is that part of it, but there's also the part when this is, old news at this point, but since social media has become such a ever-present thing and like 3 billion people at least lives in the world, I think it has affected people's attention spans. So I think it's a little bit of like, yes, algorithmic preferences, but also that. But I also think it's what we expect on Instagram. I mean, I was doing it this morning. I got up, I looked at my Instagram page, and I'm flipping through. It was a Chihuahua video. I'm like, there is for sure what we expect when we're on Instagram is not to like get lost in one particular video, because it's not designed that way. It's designed to be quick.
Yeah.
So, there is that. But now the way things are is that we are always on it. And so we have to find these ways of conveying who we are in these bite-sized little things. And that's very tricky.
There is built-in pressure in social media content creation to remain interesting through the entire video. Higher watch rates mean that these platforms can earn top dollar from advertisers, so companies are incentivized to make that metric more favorable to their algorithm. Capitalism strikes again. The retention game is just one of many that you must play if you want a platform to widely distribute your music or your ideas. The preference control that we cede to the algorithm probably has a whole host of unintended consequences associated with it. From cultural ramifications to mental health to our ability as musicians to make a living for ourselves. I think it's important, so I'll ask again, how well aligned is the algorithm with our interests? Is the algorithm a mirror which reflects only that which we find valuable? Or is it a biased recommender machine that only spits out content that it knows will keep us on the platform longer? If it's the former, why are so many of us frustrated with it? Is this an indictment on what we think about ourselves or what we think our tastes are? And if it's the latter, why do we often see content that does genuinely match our interests? I don't think any of us find that our content recommendation is completely off with what we might enjoy, but there's another side to the shred coin that we've largely ignored. Why do some people dislike this kind of content so strongly.
More is not always better. And when that more is just the same couple of arpeggios and scales over and over, that's even worse. You are an amazing guitarist, but you need someone next to you who isn't afraid to tell you when you're butchering a song. This is not artistry. This is guitar calisthenics. This sucks. You can do better.
This is what happens when you practice every day but have no idea what music is.
He thinks this is cool? Is this dude on something? That's a lesson in how to destroy such a classic song.
The energy and technique is very good.
The subtextual eagerness to impress and the lack of any sort of discernment in the choices being made here is the what kind of diminishes it from being a particularly moving performance.
No! You don't fucking talk to me!
I think for many people, the disapproving eye roll that hits them when they see one of these videos pass their feed stems from a problem rooted in expectation and comparison.
The main thing that people don't get is that when you see a video on Instagram or on TikTok, that video was made for Instagram or TikTok, right? Yeah. You know, if you go on my Spotify or something, or even on YouTube, there's like back toccata, 5-minute arrangement, you know, production, everything. But then you go to TikTok and I play something live and like make, you know, a crazy arrangement, a comment which will say, yeah, I couldn't listen to this for longer than like 1 minute. But like I made the video
to be 1 minute.
No one likes a show off. Except when they do. Who isn't in awe, for example, at a high-level feat of athleticism, or the absolute dedication of one's life to a singular craft? Have you ever seen these videos of people folding pizza boxes together at basically the speed of light? You probably have, or if not, I'm sure you've seen some version of this type of video where someone does some mundane task or job at like the highest peak of human technical mastery. I know this because these type of videos tend to go mega viral, and there's probably a good reason why. There's a quality inside these kinds of videos that economist and contagious writer Jonah Berger would call sticky. Stickiness is the quality that compels people to pay close, continuous attention to a product, concept, or idea. And I think the stickiness that makes us unable to look away at a dude who's mastered the art of pizza box folding is the same stickiness that propels Instagram guitarists towards virality. Humans seem to have an almost innate inclination to appreciate any kind of work at the highest level of skill, dedication, and mastery. That goes for music as well. We might look at something like a photorealistic painting and say, where's the art? Where's the expression? I mean, you might as well have just taken a photograph. But on the flip side of that, I am totally struck by the technical mastery required to paint a scene that is nearly indistinguishable from a photograph. The intense concentration, the countless hours spent, the depth of knowledge in colors and composition and light, all coalescing into the purest form of excellence that we can achieve. That's got to be worth something, right? Who's to hold one type of beauty over another? But you might say, okay, fine, Levi, I get it. It's undeniable that these IG guitarists are phenomenal musicians. They're truly machines on strings, but that's not the point of music. I mean, where's the heart? Where's the soul? Where's the emotion? Putting aside for a second the massive amount of subjectivity that goes into what one might find emotionally compelling, I think music is broader than this point of view allows. I used to do these shows, and I don't know, shows is a pretty strong word. We called them wallpaper gigs. You'd be set up in a discreet little corner at some sort of business function and expected to play this very nondescript, almost cocktail jazz to set the vibe for the event. These were the kind of gigs where you'd already have your amp at 1, and inevitably someone would come up to you through the night and ask you to turn down.
Would you turn that down just a little bit?
And when that happens, by the way, you can have one of two responses. You can either understand your place in the room in that moment and respect the people who are paying you to be there and just turn down, or you can do the deeply unprofessional approach and turn up because, you know, them, make their moment about you, and then proceed never to get hired again.
You are done. Fired.
The thing is, wallpaper music is not meant to be experienced the same way you would experience music at, say, a pop concert. And that's okay. Context matters, and it would be deeply weird to listen to wallpaper music at your corporate business conference and act like you would at a T Swift concert. Likewise, it would be inappropriate to judge one type of music with the criteria of another. It's quite off-putting to me whenever someone tries to hierarchize the enjoyment of music. I can enjoy music for its emotional deep dives into the human condition, but I can also enjoy it as the social glue which brings us together. I can enjoy music because I like to dance, but that doesn't stop me from enjoying music as comedy. And guess what? I can enjoy music for its athletic feats of technical mastery. One isn't inherently better than the other. The problem arises when you try and judge one form of music with the criteria of another. It's like saying Adele's Easy on Me isn't a good song because you can't breakdance to it.
One huge side of my my playing, I should say the things that I like, which informs my playing, is things, composers like Philip Glass, for example. He'll take his piece Metamorphosis. The first 6 or 7 minutes of that piece is 4 chords going on over and over again with an immense amount of space in between those chords. Very, very, very patient piece. If Philip Glass was developing his career right now, I don't think he'd really have one. Because, there's really...
Yeah. That's fair. I guess it's somewhat a question of medium, because when I think Philip Glass, I think, okay, here's a guy who basically informed and inspired all of modern film music. Like, if we were to go into a cinema today and Philip Glass never existed, it would sound completely different. You can
Totally.
Yeah, you can attribute a lot of that to him. That's the medium in which that music is maybe supposed to be consumed. At least in the modern context, whereas maybe Instagram and social media and TikTok and all that, because of its short form nature, maybe we're listening to this kind of music and expecting one thing, which is like, oh, it doesn't sound like David Gilmour, but it's not David Gilmour. It's not supposed to be. It's something. Totally unique unto itself. Let's try and be mindful of the context of what we consume and enjoy or dislike the short form content of these Instagram guitarists on their own merits. Comparison, after all, is so often the thief of joy. The beauty of music is also how subjective it is. For one person, a track might be too technical, but for another person, that same track is just emotionally dense. For some, it's an insult to think about something like this as something akin to musical athletics. That perspective, after all, denies the listener from being able to bond with the emotion behind the technique. For others, they hear it and think, wow, that's really quite amazing. Maybe I can add some of that to my toolbox. I mean, I don't think I'd want to hear a 4-minute version of that, but I can appreciate it for the short 30-second vertical clip that it is. A word of caution if you are or are considering posting in a similar vein as your favorite Instagram guitarist. But I suppose this applies to any content creator posting anything on the internet as well. Consider your audience. If you are posting about music theory or effects pedals or how to play this or behind the scenes in the studio that, you should know you are speaking exclusively to musicians. That might be fine, by the way. In my case, I am totally happy with the niche I have. I am speaking exactly to who I want to be speaking to. But are you? I've seen so many people out there, friends included, who have a desire to market their music to a larger demographic, and then they go and make a video about how they got their snare sound. And it's like no one but you and your drum buddies are gonna watch that. If your goal is to reach your average listener, maybe a video on snare sounds is a waste of your time. But if you want to speak to drummers and recording engineers, that's probably exactly what you should be doing. Consider that what you see pop up on your feed is tailored, at least in part, to what you like. So don't assume everyone in the world sees what you see. As a musician, you're probably seeing a fair bit of content that's specifically made for you. So it can become very easy to see a guitar video hit 1 million views and think, oh, that's what I need to do to get heard. But in the grand scheme of things, 1 million hits really isn't that much, and it captures not just a small audience, but a very specific type of audience. You. The worst thing you can do is start to foster a community around your content that is misaligned with who you are, what your message is, and what your goals might be. People have really good bullshit detectors, and you'll find it very hard to find and hold on to an audience if you're being inauthentic to yourself, whether or not you're conscious of it. Thank you so much for supporting this channel by watching this video to the end. Also, a big thank you to John for sitting down and talking with me. I'll leave a link to all his music and his socials down in the description so you can check it out. If you want to hear our full uncut discussion, it'll be up on my Patreon. We talk strategies to remaining authentic on social media, how not to get pigeonholed as musicians, and some philosophies on how to arrange for solo bass. For as little as $1 a month, your patronage will get you access to free sample packs and behind-the-scenes materials. I'll also have extended cuts of my videos, bass lessons, exclusive microtonal music theory content, your name in the credits, and monthly hangout sessions where we can talk live about anything and everything music. We are, at the time of recording, at 3 patrons, one of which may or may not be my mom, and if you happen to be my mom, thank you. And if you happen to not be my mom, thank you as well. Your support means the world to me. Be sure to subscribe and ring the bell, and until next time, I will leave you with a performance from the greatest of all Instagram guitarists.